Have you ever clutched sand in your palm? The tighter you squeeze, the faster it escapes through your fingers. That same strange truth echoes throughout life. The harder you try to control everything, the more things spin out of control. The more desperately you chase something, the more it seems to pull away. You plan, push, grind, grip, and yet reality resists. But then something almost magical happens. The moment, the exact moment, you finally let go. Not out of defeat, but out of wisdom. Something shifts. Life doesn't punish you for loosening your grip. It rewards you with clarity, with direction, with peace. This video isn't about giving up. It's about discovering a power far greater than force. It's about the wisdom of surrender, the kind of surrender that reconnects you to something deeper, to alignment, to your inner peace, to the natural rhythm that life has always been whispering to you. Because maybe, just maybe, the thing you've been chasing so desperately isn't running from you. Maybe it's been trying to reach you, but you were standing in the way. Since childhood, we've been fed a single story. If you want something, fight for it. Hustle, grind, dominate, outwork everyone. And sure, effort matters. Discipline is real, but there's a hidden cost when you try to force life to obey you. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The more you chase something, the more it slips away. The more you try to control, the more chaos you invite. Have you noticed it? You plan every step, set hard deadlines, control every variable. You micromanage your future in the name of success, and yet the job you were perfect for suddenly vanishes. The person you thought was the one pulls away. That passion project that once lit up your soul, now it feels like a burden. Why? Because life doesn't bend to force. It flows with alignment. Sometimes the door stays shut, not because you're lazy, not because you're undisciplined, but because you're banging on the wrong door and with all your strength, while the right one quietly waits behind you. Eventually the exhaustion sets in, your soul grows weary. You're burned out from carrying the weight of every plan, every detail, every imagined outcome. And that's when something strange happens. You let go, not because you want to, but because you've run out of options. And in that space, in the stillness that follows surrender, life shifts, not because you fought harder, but because you finally stopped fighting. You didn't lose. You just released the illusion that you were ever in control of it all. Surrender gets a bad reputation. People confuse it with weakness, laziness, or giving up. But real surrender, intelligent surrender, is an act of strength. It says, I trust the flow of life more than my fear of uncertainty. It whispers, I'm open to a better path, even if it's not the one I imagined. It chooses peace over panic, clarity over control. Imagine you're gripping the steering wheel of a car so tightly your knuckles turn white. You're forcing every turn, every bump, every stretch of road. But what if the road was already paved? What if you were so busy redrawing the map, you missed the signs guiding you home? So let me ask you, what are you holding on to so tightly that it can't breathe? What are you trying to force into existence that was never meant to be forced? Are you clinging to a relationship that no longer serves you? Are you gripping a goal that no longer aligns with your soul? Are you pushing a dream that once felt right, but now feels heavy? There's wisdom in loosening the grip. There's power in creating space, not for failure, but for alignment. Not everything in life needs to be hunted down or dragged across the finish line. Some things need to be received. Some answers come in the quiet. Some paths only appear when the dust settles. This isn't about quitting your ambitions. It's about dropping the pressure to force outcomes. It's about tuning in, not pushing forward blindly. Let go of the idea that you always need to be in control. Sometimes your greatest strength is in your stillness. Your most powerful decision is choosing to trust the timing of your life. And your deepest wisdom may be hidden inside one brave choice: to surrender. Not in weakness, but in trust, to release the grip, to stop chasing, and to allow what is meant for you to find you. We live in a culture obsessed with control. Everywhere you turn, books, podcasts, success seminars, you're told to take charge, manifest harder, grind until it works. It's like we've all been handed the same script: push harder, move faster, and don't stop until you win. But here's what almost no one tells you. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is stop. Stop trying to force everything. Stop trying to control every outcome. Stop confusing pressure with progress. Because here's the truth that's quietly transformative. Surrender is not quitting. It's not laziness. It's not abandoning your dreams. Surrender is releasing the illusion that you alone must micromanage every detail, every timeline, every twist and turn of your journey. Let's be clear, surrender doesn't mean you do nothing. It doesn't mean you sit around waiting for life to happen to you. It means you stop doing what clearly isn't working. It means you release the frantic energy of desperation and replace it with the calm focus of devotion. It's the difference between forcing your way through and faithfully following your path. Most people don't realize this until they've run themselves into the ground, until they're bitter, burned out, and exhausted from constantly pushing against the current. They think, if I just do more, try harder, stay up later, surely life will reward me. But sometimes life isn't asking for more effort. It's asking for more trust, because surrender doesn't pull you away from life. It pulls you into something deeper, into alignment with a flow that's wiser than your deadlines, gentler than your ego, and more powerful than your plans. Let me tell you about Sarah. She was an incredibly talented artist. For years, she gave everything she had. She painted endlessly, marketed herself relentlessly, promoted her work non-stop. She followed every strategy, every trend, and yet nothing landed. No breakthroughs, no fulfillment, just emptiness, just fatigue. She was doing everything right, but inside, she was falling apart. Until one day, in the quiet after burnout, she stopped. She didn't stop creating. She stopped performing. She let go of painting for approval. She let go of posting just to impress others. And she returned to what made her fall in love with art in the first place. The feeling of being alive when she painted. She created not for the algorithm, not for the applause, but for herself, for joy, for truth. And then, life responded. Out of nowhere, a gallery curator stumbled upon her work. A collector bought her first piece. And slowly, quietly, opportunities began to flow in. Not because she chased them, but because she stopped resisting her truth. She aligned, and life met her there. This is the paradox of surrender. When you stop forcing life to happen, life starts flowing toward you, but you can't arrive there with a clenched fist. You have to loosen your grip. You have to whisper to yourself, I don't know how this ends. I don't have to know. I just know I'm here and I trust what's unfolding. That's not weakness, that's presence, that's wisdom. You're not backing away from your life. You're responding to it intelligently, intuitively, without panic. Picture a clenched fist. It's strong, yes, but it holds nothing. Now picture an open hand. It's vulnerable, but it's also ready. Ready to receive, ready to allow, ready to grow. That's surrender. That's where the shift begins. Not in your circumstances, but in your energy. You move from pressure to presence, from control to curiosity, from panic to peace. So pause and ask yourself, where in your life are you still clenching your fist? Where are you pushing so hard, muscling through something, when life might actually be asking you to soften? Because maybe, just maybe, the peace you're chasing isn't found in more effort. Maybe it's waiting for you, just on the other side of surrender. Have you ever noticed how, right before you do something meaningful, you suddenly feel tired? You procrastinate, you get distracted. You clean the kitchen, you scroll through your phone. It's not because you don't care, it's because surrendering to what really matters requires you to release everything that doesn't. And that's the work. Not just moving forward, but letting go of what weighs you down. You check your phone again. You find yourself scrolling, organizing, doing everything except the one thing your heart is quietly begging you to do. And here's a truth we rarely admit out loud. That's not laziness. That's not a lack of discipline. That's resistance, a powerful, invisible force working against you. Resistance doesn't show up to stop you from doing something small or meaningless. No, it arrives precisely when you're about to take a step that matters. When you're standing on the edge of breakthrough, ready to leap toward your dreams, resistance storms in like a fierce wind, trying to hold you back. Think about that dream you've buried deep inside, or the conversation you've been avoiding for months, or the bold move you keep talking yourself out of, right before you're about to cross the threshold into a new chapter of your life. Resistance isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign you're close. It's like an invisible wall appearing right before you break through to a new version of yourself. Let's be honest, if resistance never showed up, it would mean you're not pushing boundaries. You're not stretching beyond your comfort zone. You're not growing or evolving. So that feeling of being stuck, paralyzed, or drained, it's not failure, it's a signal. It means you're standing at the doorway of transformation, whether you realize it or not. Yet most people respond by retreating. They mistake discomfort for danger. They run back to what's familiar and safe, even if it's quietly draining their spirit. Let me introduce you to Adam. Adam was a writer with a story to tell, with talent and with time on his side. But every time he sat down to write, anxiety washed over him like a tidal wave. What if it's not good enough? What if no one reads it? What if I fail? Instead of writing his novel, he found himself reorganizing his bookshelf. Again, that was resistance talking. But one day, Adam made a radical choice. He stopped fighting resistance. He stopped trying to shove it aside or overpower it with sheer will. Instead, he listened. He got curious. He asked himself, what is this fear really protecting me from? What's the belief hiding underneath all this hesitation? What he discovered surprised him. He wasn't afraid of failure. He was afraid of being seen. He was afraid of being vulnerable, exposed on the page. That realization didn't make resistance disappear, but it softened it. And from that softer place, Adam could finally move forward. Not because he was fearless, but because he was honest with himself and with his fear. This is what surrender looks like when resistance knocks at the door. It's not about battling it head on with brute force. It's about acknowledging it and choosing to move anyway. You don't wait to feel ready. You don't wait for fear to vanish. You step forward even if your hands shake, because it's action that dissolves resistance, not massive leaps, but honest, small steps. Write one sentence, make one phone call, record one idea. Big dreams don't die because you don't want them enough. They die because overwhelm and fear choke the life out of them. And resistance thrives on overwhelm. But presence, calm, mindful presence, shrinks resistance. It breaks it down into manageable pieces. It turns what felt impossible into the next logical step. Here's a truth many miss. Resistance is not your enemy. Resistance is your compass. It points exactly to where your growth and transformation live. So the next time you feel that storm inside, don't run. Lean in. Listen closely, and then take that next step, no matter how small, because that's how you cross the invisible wall and step into your true power. Let's continue from where we left off, recognizing resistance not as a barrier, but as the signpost pointing toward your growth. That heaviness you feel, that knot in your stomach right before you take a leap into the unknown. That's not just fear, It's your soul signaling you're on the edge of something important. Instead of running from it, pause, breathe. Stand still long enough to really hear what's beneath the fear. It might surprise you, and then move forward, not recklessly nor pretending you're fearless, but with honesty and courage. This is the true path of power. This is the path of surrender. We all want control. We meticulously plan every detail, set strict timelines, and strategize to avoid disappointment. We do all this just to feel safe. But here's the paradox. The more we try to control life, the more it resists. The harder we grip, the more exhausted we become. Control feels powerful, at least for a while, until the truth sinks in. We can't control people, outcomes, or even what tomorrow will bring. Yet we keep trying, because letting go feels like falling. It feels like losing power. But what if surrender isn't weakness? What if it is actually the purest form of strength? Take Maya's story. She spent years searching for her purpose. She devoured every book, enrolled in every course, mapped out countless 5-year plans. Still, nothing felt quite right. Then one day she stopped chasing and planning. She began to listen, not to the world, but to herself. She tuned into what genuinely moved her, what felt honest, what brought her alive, not what looked impressive on paper. One small choice at a time, she followed that quiet inner voice. She let go of the script she thought she was supposed to follow and stepped into a path that finally made sense. The irony? She didn't find her purpose by controlling life. She found it by trusting it. That's what surrender really means. It's not passivity or laziness. It's a partnership with life itself. You still show up. You still take action. But now you act from alignment, not anxiety. You stop dragging life behind you and start moving in rhythm with it. That kind of power doesn't shout, it commands presence. Because when you stop forcing life to bend to your will, life meets you with unexpected grace. But embracing surrender requires unlearning. We've been conditioned to believe hustle equals worth, effort equals control. And if we don't keep everything under strict command, everything will fall apart. Here's a little secret. Most of what seems to be falling apart was never truly under your control to begin with. And when you finally realize that, something beautiful happens. You start to breathe again. You begin to listen to what really matters. Not what you thought you should be doing, but what your soul is quietly calling you toward. So ask yourself, where are you gripping too tightly in your life? What dream, relationship, or expectation are you forcing into existence? What could change if you softened your grip, not giving up, but simply giving in? Let go of the timeline. Let go of the script. Because sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come not from pushing harder, but from stepping back, trusting the flow and allowing life to unfold in its own perfect way. Let go of the burden to solve it all. The truth is, life isn't asking you to be perfect. It's simply asking you to be present, truly present in this moment. And the more you practice that presence, the more peace will quietly, patiently rise within you until you realize you never needed to control everything. You just needed to trust that you could handle whatever comes your way. That's the real power. That's the freedom found in wise surrender. We live in a world addicted to speed. Everything is rush, rush, rush. More tasks, more deadlines, more pressure. You wake up feeling behind. And even when you manage to get ahead, you still don't feel peace. Because here's the trap. We confuse urgency with importance and movement with progress. But sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Not because you're lazy or giving up, but because you're learning to listen again. Stillness is not weakness, it's wisdom. Think about nature. A seed doesn't become a tree by force. It doesn't wake up and sprint toward the sun like a runner in a race. It grows in stillness, rooted, patient, aligned with its season. And the same is true for you. Some of your most important growth won't come from running fast. It will come from slowing down enough to feel, to notice, to hear yourself again. But slowing down feels uncomfortable because we've been taught that if we're not producing, we're falling behind. That rest must be earned. That silence is empty. That stillness is wasted time. But what if stillness isn't the pause between the real stuff? What if stillness is the real stuff? Let me tell you about James. He built his life around performance. Every minute of his day was optimized. He made 7 figures, hit every goal, and looked wildly successful from the outside. But inside, James was burnt out, disconnected, empty, until a health scare forced him to stop. No meetings, no hustle, no noise. And in that stillness, a voice emerged, one he hadn't heard in years. The voice that asked him, "Are you really living or just performing?" That question broke him open and opened a new door. For the first time in decades, James didn't rush to fix the discomfort. He sat with it. He journaled, walked, meditated. He remembered what it felt like to be present. Not just productive, but alive. Not just impressive, but real. And here's the wild part. In that season of doing less, everything began to align. New opportunities found him. Old relationships healed. And most importantly, he found himself again. Because sometimes stillness isn't where you lose momentum. It's where you rediscover direction. So here's my question for you. Where are you moving so fast that you've lost connection with what truly matters? What truth are you rushing past simply because you're afraid of the silence it might bring? What if, just for one day, you slowed down? Not to fall behind, but to finally fall back into alignment. You see, real productivity doesn't come from panic. It comes from presence. Picking up from the idea of presence and stillness, remember that true presence only reveals itself in moments of quiet. So take a walk, sit in silence, close your laptop, turn off the noise around you, and listen, because life whispers in the stillness. And what you hear there might just change everything. We all carry a mental calendar of how life should unfold. Married by 30, successful by 35, fulfilled, happy, balanced by next week. We don't just chase goals, we chase deadlines. And when reality doesn't match the plan, we spiral because deep down, we've tied our self-worth to our schedule. But life has never cared about your timeline. It's not late, it's not early, it's just on time. In ways you don't understand yet. This is where surrender becomes not only helpful, but essential. Because surrender doesn't mean you stop dreaming. It means you stop micromanaging destiny. You begin to trust that what's meant for you won't miss you, even if it's not here yet. That some delays aren't denials, but divine redirections. Imagine you're rowing hard upstream, exhausted and frustrated, barely moving forward. Then someone whispers, "Turn the boat around." You resist because going with the current feels like giving up. But when you finally listen and stop fighting the flow, you move faster, smoother, farther without burning out. Surrender isn't quitting. It's finally trusting you're not in this alone. Take Maya's story. She was a high achiever who spent years chasing the right path. Vision boards, 5-year plans, milestones for every quarter of her life. Yet something always felt off, as if she was living someone else's idea of success. One day, tired of the noise, she stopped. She unplugged. She stopped forcing alignment. Instead, she asked herself a quiet question. What's true for me today? That question changed everything. She began noticing what lit her up, not what looked good on paper. She followed joy over status, alignment over strategy. Within months, opportunities appeared that her plan never could have predicted. Not because she tried harder, but because she stopped trying to control the timeline. Let this sink in. Life doesn't reward control. It rewards alignment. When you release the need to know exactly when, you unlock the freedom to be fully here. You stop racing against time and start moving in rhythm with something greater. So ask yourself, where in your life are you obsessing over how long it's taking? Where are you mistaking delay for failure? And what would it feel like to let go of your stopwatch and trust the process instead? You don't have to stop dreaming. You just need to stop measuring your worth by the calendar. Because the truth is, you're not behind. You're not late. You're becoming. And when it's meant to happen, it won't be forced. It will flow naturally. So breathe. Loosen your grip. Let time take care of the rest. When you loosen your grip on the stopwatch, you begin to truly live. Because life is not a deadline to meet. It's a masterpiece unfolding, brushstroke by brushstroke in real time. We often say we want love, but if we look closer, what we really crave is control, cleverly disguised as connection. We don't just want to be loved, we want to be loved our way. We want someone to understand us without asking, meet our needs without effort, and change just enough to make us feel safe. And when they don't, we try to fix them, mold them, manage them, all in the name of love. But let's be honest, love that depends on control isn't love, it's fear. Fear of being abandoned, fear of being misunderstood, fear that if we stop controlling, we'll stop mattering. Surrender in relationships doesn't mean silence. It doesn't mean giving in or shrinking yourself. It means releasing the illusion that you have to micromanage another human being just to feel secure. Because real love isn't about control, it's about freedom. The freedom to be seen, to be heard, and to be accepted exactly as you are. Let me tell you about Jason and Claire. Jason loved Claire deeply, but he always felt like she was emotionally distant. He'd plan romantic dates, send long, heartfelt messages, over-communicate every feeling, hoping to draw her closer. But the more he tried, the more Claire seemed to pull away. Then one day, a friend asked him, "Are you truly connecting with her? Or just trying to control her into becoming who you need her to be?" That question hit hard. Jason realized he wasn't offering love. He was offering performance, wrapped in expectations. And Claire, she wasn't pulling back because she didn't care. She was shrinking under pressure. So Jason tried something different. He stopped over-explaining. He stopped demanding emotional milestones. He stopped managing the connection like it was a checklist. Instead, he just showed up, fully present, without a script, and something powerful happened. Claire began to lean in, not because he asked her to, but because she finally felt free enough to choose it. Here's the paradox. The less you try to control someone, the more space you create for real connection. Surrender in love means you express your needs without demanding outcomes. You allow others to grow at their own pace. You release the pressure for perfection, theirs and yours. You let people be who they truly are, not who your fear needs them to be. That doesn't mean you accept abuse. That doesn't mean you stay in a place where you're unseen or unsafe. It means you learn the difference between loving someone and editing them to fit your comfort zone. Here's the truth. When you surrender control, you make space for honesty. And honesty is where real intimacy lives. You stop performing, they stop pretending. And what's left is something raw, vulnerable, and real. So ask yourself, where in your relationships are you holding on too tightly? Where are you confusing control with love? And what might happen if you stop trying to fix someone and simply met them as they are? Because love that lasts breathes. It doesn't cling, it connects. In the end, surrender isn't weakness. It's not giving up. It's giving in to truth, to rhythm, to the deeper current of life that's always been flowing beneath all your effort. It takes courage to let go, but it takes wisdom to realize you never really had control in the first place. So the real question is no longer, How do I get what I want? But instead, can I live without needing to force it? Can you live with openness instead of obsession? With presence instead of panic? With trust instead of tension? Because the moment you stop chasing, the moment you soften your grip, life doesn't punish you, it meets you. If today's message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to keep growing stronger, wiser, and more grounded through Stoic philosophy, hit like, subscribe to Stoic Fantastic, and turn on the bell so you never miss a video. This journey isn't one you have to walk alone, and together we rise from within.